Welcome to Resilience Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Ostrolenk. This show is about building better humans, institutions, and systems. On the show, I'll be interviewing many different experts from across many different fields, including human optimization, health and fitness, team building, mind-body medicine. In the institutional space, we're looking at different institutions and how we can create new ones, new models and maps, including in medicine, in education, in intelligence community, in law enforcement, in the military, especially in the special operations community. Thanks for being here and enjoy the show.
Today, I'm excited to welcome Michelle Dutro on the show. Michelle is a U.S. Air Force veteran, former firefighter, biofeedback specialist, podcast host, and founder of the Inner North Star Retreat Center in Southern California. For more than 2 decades, Michelle has helped people navigate major life transitions, combining nervous system regulation, personal growth, and deep inner work to help individuals reconnect with who they are and what matters most. Today, we're focusing on the transformational retreat she leads, immersive experiences designed to help people step away from the noise of everyday life, gain clarity, regulate their nervous systems, reconnect with purpose, and create meaningful change. We'll explore why retreats can be such powerful catalysts for growth, what people are truly seeking when they attend, and what Michelle has learned from guiding countless individuals through profound personal transformation. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me. This is follow-up conversation for those folks that don't know that you were on my podcast first, the Game Changer podcast, and I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation.
As am I, but this time I get to ask you questions.
Yes. I love being on the hot seat.
With my listening and viewing audience. So obviously, as I shared at the beginning, I want you to talk about your retreats and your retreat center. But before I do, it's really important for the viewing audience to understand who is Michelle, how she got into this space, and why this kind of context is so important for her in terms of changing people's lives through the retreat process and your individual coaching that you do as well.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, the Air Force is kind of way back, and then moved into being a firefighter. This is outside of Seattle, Washington. And, you know, you think that you're on a path where you know what your purpose is and your calling. And then there's a little challenge that comes up along the way. And that challenge was, as a firefighter, 80% of your calls are medical calls. They're not fire calls. So in these 80% of the calls that we were on, virtually 100% of those calls could have been prevented, right? It's the chest pain, it's the near heart attack or heart attack for that matter. It's the diabetic seizure. It's all of those calls that I would spend my time saying, okay, Ed, we're here again for the 3rd time this week. Let's take a look at what you're eating. Let's take a look in your pantry. Let's chat about what's going on in your refrigerator. Let's talk about your lifestyle. And the rest of the crew saying, Michelle, we are emergency medicine. We are in and out. We are not life coaches. This is not what we're doing here. And they were right. That's the truth. There is a role, sick or not sick, right? We're either going to the hospital, we're doing something to save your life, but that is not the role of a firefighter. But I realized after short order, that was my role. And so I struggled for quite a while in the fire department of loving the job, and I loved everything about it. Trust me, an engine goes rolling down the highway and it's all I can do to not see where it's going and say, oh, let me see if I can help. Never wanted. But the truth was that rather than being on the emergency medicine side of things, my heart truly was on the prevention side, is what can we do to prevent these catastrophes from happening in the first place? And so I left the fire department and spent a while, the better part of a year trying to figure out what the best avenue of prevention was for me. What is everything that's out there that can truly help? And I suppose I knew enough about quantum physics to be dangerous, that I knew that there had to be devices out there that would have the ability to see what's going on with you before it manifested in a way that could be tested by Western medicine, right? Usually by the time we have a diagnosis, it's kind of like the check engine oil light in the car. Well, by the time that light comes on, you have an engine fire. Well, that's kind of the same with our health. By the time we have a diagnosis, we're way behind the 8 ball and trying to backpedal our way out of it. And so I started many of the devices sitting behind me here on the shelf. I still have my very first one to this day, added many others to it, but all frequency-based medicine. And I can tell you that 25 years ago, this was like being a witch doctor. It was so far on the fringe. And now all of a sudden, PEMF and all this frequency-based medicine stuff is all the new trend. And I'm thinking, man, I fought the FDA on this for so long. I was such the black sheep and outcast for what are you snake oil salesmen doing here? But I'm thrilled that, the world has kind of evolved and caught up a bit. So that's sort of how that evolution came about was truly what is the best way to prevent catastrophes from happening, and not just prevent them, but how can we know about them before they're even really a thing, before they're a real problem.
When we're offline, I'll tell you a funny story about the rice machine back in the day.
Well, that's built into one of them, so we can chat. Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. Yep.
But before we go into frequencies and healing and,
Sure.
and coaching work, you also mentioned to Air Force and firefighting. A little background. Why the Air Force and how did you go from Air Force to firefighter?
Yeah, there was a bit of a spread in between there. Air Force was one thing. So was the fire department, but the Air Force. I was in college, and which is a bit of a lie. I was actually playing volleyball on the beaches of Santa Barbara more than I was in any class in Santa Barbara. And so I realized, Michelle, look, you're good at volleyball, but you're never going to make it pro. And by the way, I don't even know that a pro female volleyball player can earn a living at that. So that's not even really a path, quite honestly. So what are you doing with your life? You need to, and I would have this little pep talk with myself. And then the next day I would finish up yet another volleyball game and not be in school going, okay, that's it. We got to draw the line here. You're going to go nowhere in life. What can you do to get some discipline? And so I sat there and thought, well, who has the most discipline where it's really not an option, where it's not a negotiable? They're not saying, hey, if you feel like being disciplined today, great. And if you don't, sit in the back seat. So I thought, well, that's the military. I know no one in the military, no one, not my family, not one friend, nothing. And so I went and sat with all four branches, and three of the four had a 6-year commitment of some way, shape, or form. 3-year active, 3-year inactive, 3 years this, 2 years reserve. The Air Force was the only one that was 4 years active, 2 years nothing, right? Just inactive. And I thought, if I can't even commit to 4 years of school, how am I committing to 6 years of the military? So it was literally the only reason I even went into the Air Force. My goal was the Marines, because I thought, if you're going to go, go. You know what I mean? If you're going to do something, do it, for crying out loud. Anyway, that was why. So it worked. It sure did. Yes, discipline became not an option in the military, even though it is the Air Force. And I know anybody in the Marines would say, really, though? I mean, you guys stayed at hotels, and I get all the grief, but it did work. And then your other question, which I did my 4 years, learned a lot. It was an absolutely tremendous experience. Wouldn't trade it for the world. And then I went into sales, a lot in aerospace right when I first got out, because it was the Air Force. It was easy, stayed in sales for a while. And then, no offense to anybody with a sales career field, because it's a great one, but one of those moments where it's that kind of conversation of saying, okay, what are you doing with your life? And do I want my headstone to be Michelle sold more widgets than anyone? What am I really here for? What really is my highest calling? And I thought, okay, well, if I want to make a tremendous difference, I should be a doctor. Well, now at this point, I'm 33 years old. Okay, that I don't know how many years of schooling it is to be a doctor, too many for me. So then I thought, all right, well, I could be a nurse. All right, well, I could probably pull that off with the amount of time I have left. Who could be the best nurse? Well, I could be an ER nurse. They're the most needed. And then I thought, okay, is anybody more needed than an ER nurse? And I thought, well, who's the person that has to get you to the ER? Fighter. And so I had no idea that it wasn't simply fill out an application and go in for an interview. I thought that's how that worked. No, no, it did not. I tested everywhere for 2 straight years, which took me to the age of 35. This was my last attempt at getting in, and then I was finally going to call it quits. But the average then, 1,400 people showed up on day one of the process, and they were hiring 10 people. So it's just, and that's average. That's just how it is anywhere. I mean, I can't speak for the whole United States, but I can certainly speak for the West Coast, that those numbers are average. So it was a very difficult job to get. And like I said, I really loved it. But that fine tuning, I give the example of, like, when you're going to the optometrist and they say, lens one, lens two, lens one, lens two, is a constant in my life. And it's carried through all of my practices, good, better, best. Is this really the right fit? Is there something that could be better? Is this the right fit? Is there something that could be closer to what you think your personal calling is here in this lifetime. And so the fire department was one leap closer to that. And then going on the prevention side of medicine was even closer.
What did you learn about yourself, both in the Air Force and as a firefighter, that you didn't know prior to heading into both careers?
Did I know it? Whew. Probably wasn't tested to this extreme, but I would say grit and determination. I would say I knew that to a certain degree, if you are ever going to say to me, "You're never gonna make it," or "That can't be done," okay, now I'm gonna double down. I didn't even know that I wanted that before, but now I'm all in. And so the certainly the fire academy, far more than the military, but the fire academy was no joke. And that's how it should be, right? Your life is on the line. You have other firefighters that you're going into a burning building with, and if you can't pull your own weight, it's not just you that's in trouble, but it's someone else's life at stake, let alone the person that you're there to save or rescue. And so if you can't do the job, they should make it as hard as possible, because there's no, oh, well, females have one standard and men have another standard. It's all the same, and it should be. And let me tell you, when you are a 35-year-old, 5'4" female, they are going to put you through the ringer of tests. I, I think it's fair to say, had to prove myself much more than anybody else. There were 35 people in our particular academy than anyone else did, and as hard as that was, I had 2 little girls at the time. I appreciate it. I don't wanna, if I can't do the job, you know what? I wanna come home at the end of the day. And so it was the hardest physical, mental, spiritual, emotional testing I'd ever been put through, was the fire academy for sure. Yeah.
Good for you for putting yourself under those conditions, getting through them successfully, and at a mature age at that.
Yes. Oh, I sure was. I was in there with guys that could have been my son. There's an 18-year-old kid. I mean, it could have been could have been my son that I was taking grief from. So anyway,
You know,
made me better for it.
I heard you say a few times you had self conversations when you're playing volleyball and then the career transitions and stuff like that. Was that kind of par for the course? Have you always been introspective since you're a young person?
That's, I think, part of being an only child.
Okay.
Yeah, not only an only child, but a lot of time alone as an only child. You have a lot of self-reflection, a lot of observation of other people and why people do the things they do. So that, I think, was all part of the design of the life that I chose.
Mm.
So it has definitely made me who I am. And it's something that I cherish and protect to this day. My alone time means a great deal to me. And if there's any one thing that I can tell starts to get out of balance with me, it's when there becomes too much input, is things get very off kilter, is I've got to have time with just me in constantly reflecting and looking at what is the best version of me, not just for myself, but in how I show up for others. And that, I don't know how else you do that without input and quiet time.
How do you know like you're getting off kilter? Like what are your warning signs to self? Like, oh, I need to spend some alone time for introspection and meditation and contemplation or whatever the things are that you do.
Becoming grouchy.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. If I becoming short, becoming things that, just whatever it is that would bother me, that just I know shouldn't, that's just a first thing. If there becomes a fuse that becomes short in any aspect of my life, that's when I can stand back and say, okay, what's going on here? Let's we gotta slow things down here a little bit. Time to go spend time, like you and I were talking before hitting record. More time with the squirrels and pine cones is needed to sit and say, okay, what's going on? What is happening? Because usually that thing that irritates us is not the thing, right?
Yeah.
That's just a symptom of the problem, is just to say, okay, what's happening here under the surface that's trying to get my attention. So that's what I would say for me.
It's interesting because from my perspective, it's one thing to be aware of. It's another thing to be aware of and then be able to do something about it. So talk to me a little, if you don't mind,
Sure.
some of the things you do something about it with. Now, I heard you say pine cones in nature. So obviously time in nature is a useful thing for you to do. Are there other practices that you've developed over the time that helps you kind of re-regulate yourself?
So I am fortunate, as you mentioned. I live at and own a 20-acre retreat center. That's also there's no mistake to that, right? I mean, the thing I think that that we do for our profession is the thing that helps us the most. And we could certainly spin that table. I know that you being able to talk to people about identity and resiliency, as much as I'm going to just take a wild stab out here, as much as you help others through conversation, I know you get back tenfold from being in that conversation with them. And so we wind up doing things with our life that just truly does wind up being most soul fulfilling to us simultaneously. So 20 acres on a mountaintop in Julian, yes, no mistake. I also have an outdoor farm infrared sauna. I have a cold plunge. I have a hot tub, trails all over the place, meditation, sitting areas, music throughout the property. So it was initially designed day one. There was nothing here when I bought it. There was a poor excuse for a house on the land. That's what it was. And I have always had a love and fascination with Disneyland, to an obsession, to be clear, to an extreme obsession. So when I first bought this place, the very next morning, I stood out with my latte in the driveway and said, "Okay, Walt, we need to have a chat about what your vision would be here." And my reason for Disneyland is, no matter where you are in life, no matter what is going on, troubles, problems, whether it's disease, divorce, whatever is happening, you walk through the doors of Disneyland, and for that period of time, it's gone. For that period of time, for most people, there's some part, some aspect of your childhood that you are reminded of, that you tap back into, that there's some internal joy that maybe we just completely lost for years or decades. I used to have an annual pass years ago. I used to live in Laguna Beach, and I had an annual pass, and my daughters, grown up, said, "Mom, why in the world do you by yourself have an annual pass? That seems a little bit weird and creepy. You go on rides by yourself." And I said, "No, I used to work remotely, and this is before I had the retreat center, and I would take my laptop and sit on Main Street. There's a little cafe right there, and I would just sit all day and watch people walk in. The look on kids' faces, the look on parents' faces is so soul-filling for me, and it's been ingrained in me, I mean, for before that time. But what does it take to create an experience for someone where they step out of their life and immediately feel a shift? Immediately, whatever bags they have been dragging along get dropped, and there's an exhale, and there's a new conversation that can be had. And so this place lights up in multicolors at night. I have 7 different areas on the property, because so does Disneyland. Let's just be clear, it's a whole thing. But that was always my goal, is that from the second you get out of your car, the bags are dropped, right? Literally, physically, like the bags are gone. And no matter where you sit on this property, the goal is that you have the ability to have a different perspective about your life and your role in it. That's much easier to have a transformative experience or a life-changing experience when that shift happens so deeply internally. It just changes the entire conversation. Very different than I was in private practice when I left the fire department for 10 years. People would come and see me with any one of the devices behind me. And it was not long. I mean, I was probably 9.5 years too long of being in conversation with people and just inside my internal dialogue going, if I could get you out of your life for a little while, this would be an entirely different conversation. But I know that in the time we have together, things may feel a little different, but then you're going to go home to the same spouse, to the same kids, eating the same food, doing the same thing with the same habits. And it is not going to be long before you're right back to whatever all that is. And so I knew if I had, at least a minimum of 3 days with somebody in a different environment where nothing around you is familiar anymore, right? That's where neuroplasticity and we're changing brain patterns can happen a whole lot more quickly when you change your external environment drastically. And this is a drastic change for most anybody. So,
So many things like, oh, I want to talk about that, talk about this.
oh,
So let's start with like, who who comes to you to have that transformative experience over 3+ days? Like, is it track
Yeah.
that kind of experience?
So that's a great question, and it's kind of a bit of an array. So one side we'll talk about is uh, general public. The other part, I have a nonprofit, so I also offer PTSD retreats for veterans and first responders, primarily female veterans and first responders, because if you go and look up PTSD retreats, experiences, help, whatever you want to, all of them are designed for men. They're
Mhm.
all male getaways, they're all hunting, they're all outdoor challenge courses. They're just male driven. And there was nothing when I started looking in 2018, not one single thing could I find in the United States that was devoted to women. Not one. So this really is that. Now, if somebody were to say, okay, if a guy contacted you, would you not help him? I'm not kicking anyone to the curb, but I am just saying that that really is the energy, and it's who I am. So I can certainly speak from experience, right? I was in the military. I was a first responder, so I know from I know the challenges that are unique to a woman in those roles. So that's one half. The interesting thing is when I say who comes here, that is on the general public side, what I do here and what I offer truly overlap by about 80%. So if you were a veteran coming to me for PTSD, the 3 days, if you were just watching on a webcam what we did, and you were the CEO of a company, you would not see very much different because the problems are largely the same. Right? So even though people think they're coming for whatever the reason is, I wanna have deeper meaning in my life. I'm dealing with stress and anxiety. I'm dealing with, even in peak performance of saying, I feel like I'm losing my memory. I'm not as sharp. I don't sleep as well. I have inflammation. Now I'm getting to a certain age. I have aches and pains, or true, I have elite athletes that are the highest end that are just saying, if I shave 1/8 of a second off, that's the difference of me winning or not. But they're all the same thing. They're all what's going on internally with our internal dialogue, with what's happening with your life. Again, like I said, how you perceive your place in it, how that's interpreted, how that's felt. And these devices all they are, let's be clear about biofeedback. Biofeedback, by definition, is a lie detector test. That's all it is. Like if I wanted to go get a second job in a police department and do lie detector, I'm already certified for that. So you can run, but you can't hide with these devices. So when you're hooked up and we're having a conversation, the devices all react to the truth. Here's what's really going on. And one of them, the one that I started with, has the ability to see, and this I don't talk about very often in a public setting. This is quite a public setting, because a lot of people think, "Oh my God, that's so crazy," and a lot of it's honestly probably Michael wiring from my time 25 years ago. We've come a long way, but I can tell you that 25 years ago, people thought this was truly space age. But I can hook you up to this device, and I can see every emotion that is happening within you right now, and every emotion that you have stored since childhood. So when people would say, well, who can I bring with me to my session? I would say, bring anybody that you don't mind reading your entire medical history, all of your medical documents, and the diary that you have kept from before you could even write, because all that's going to come out without you saying a word. Like, I don't know anything about anybody coming to see me. It's just all there. Right. We hold every single thing on a cellular level in our body. So that's nutrition, that's toxins, that's emotions. I can see all of it. Everything isn't out of balance. So if everything is a known frequency and you are some kilter off of that, the farther off you are, the longer that's been out of balance. And that shows up numerically. So the people that come to see me, everybody comes to see me for a safe problem. Well, I think I've got some inflammation. Well, I can't really sleep. Oh, I'd like to be a little bit better. And then you're here and the real conversations happen. Let's talk about those are all symptoms, but let's talk about why that's happening. Right. And so all of these devices have the ability to definitely shift things back into a normal range. But if we aren't clear about why they got off kilter to begin with, it's just going to come back.
Y-
So,
you mentioned earlier, context matters, meaning like someone can have an experience, but then they go back to their marriage, their kids, their their environment and the old behaviors reemerge. How do you make what you do sustainable once they leave after 3 or 4 or 5 days? Or
Yeah.
is there enough shift in the system from the work over those 3 days that it doesn't matter the environment they step into after the fact?
So great question. You really should think about doing this for a living. It's a joke. I know you do this for a living. That's why you're very good at what you do. Um, so in a perfect world, I would see somebody once a quarter for a year. Right. So because I look at everything happening, right? It's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. We look at the whole thing. And being back in your life for a few months and coming back, we can see what continually drifts and we can see what holds. That's in a perfect world. Is that needed? No, it's not needed. And it's not most of the time being up here in Julian because people come from so far away. So the reality is we have very serious conversations about what your environment is at home and what it is that's pulling you so far out. Like I said, it's very, very clear. The device that I use, when I say clear, I'm going to give you one example of somebody. There was a gal who came to see me, and usually there's emotions that will show up that, there's 3 to 5 that are out of balance, that are really pulling you out of sorts. This one particular gal came to see me, and it was one, boom, was a spike through the roof, and it said betrayal. Now, I don't know what is going on in your world if things are coming from you or to you. We just know that something in that particular word is showing up. And so she sat there and she was a bit of a skeptic, right? And so whenever someone's a skeptic coming in, I start with the emotion page because I don't know anything about you. So whatever is showing up, it's either right or it's not. Child, I go through, was your childhood like this? Did you feel like that? That's either right or it's not. And now I know everything else we talk about, I've got you, right? Because when that's accurate to 100% of accuracy, then the rest of it, let's not play games. So it said betrayal, and she sat there and you could just see the energy drop out of her. And she said, how did you know that? I said, I'm not typing anything. I don't know what's going on with you. You do. So I don't know why you chose that, but you did. And she said, I was up all night long with my very best friend who she just found out her husband has been cheating on her for years. And she said, it's devastating to me. I set them up. He was my best friend. And right. And so she said, I don't know how to get past the betrayal for her, the betrayal on him. He was my friend. The story goes. And so that being unchecked, what you now the meaning that you assign betrayal uh, is it's not just an event that happens, right, Michael? It's what is the meaning we assign it, and how is that going to impact us going forward in life? How is that now going to change our identity in the world and in the life that we live? And so now that's a very different conversation. I can promise you with my life, if I did not have this device and she came in wanting to talk about lack of sleep or inflammation or what, that never would have come up.
Yeah.
Never. Nor would the relationship between what showed up from her childhood that made that betrayal feeling even more significant for her, right? And so this just saves years of dialogue with somebody of just saying, let's stop with the safe conversations and the safe problems, and let's get at what are you holding on a cellular level that we've got to banish. So people come to see me for all kinds of things. That's why they come here. What they leave with is usually it is always an entirely different thing. And it's just to say, hey, here's the impact of your environment. And your environment is your exposure to toxins. It is your nutrition. It is who you live with. It is the job you have. All of that is your milieu. All of that is your environment. And so what these devices have the ability to say is to tell you, here's the degree to which they're impacting you. So you maybe thought, I can handle it, right? I'm a tough guy. I get that. I've been that my whole life. I can handle anything. And usually those are the people that get hit the hardest because it just one day snaps, right? It's not the person that says, I got to worry about my self-care. It's the person that says, I don't need self-care. I can, right? I can man up and press on through anything. And so especially for those people when they see numerically the impact and the toll that it's taking across the board, is a different level of reality of I thought I was going to be okay through this. And I say, okay, but here's the thing. These numbers don't lie. And I've done this for 25 years. I see what is headed to cancer. I can see what's headed towards diabetes. I can see what's headed to heart disease. And so these are very real indicators of what's coming. And now you have choices to make. I can't tell you how seriously to take your life. That's up to you. But I can tell you where you're headed, right? Like I said, these at the end of the day are lie detector devices. They don't mess around.
Well, I think I shared with you on your show, like, my first introduction was biofeedback in the late '70s,
Yeah.
uh, galvanic skin response and EEG biofeedback. This is like leaps and
Leaps and bounds, yes. And that matters. I don't wanna discount that, right? That absolutely matters when we think we can handle our stress. Let's just go back to the most simple form of biofeedback, and I say to somebody, "Okay, when you're at a really zen state, when you think you're there, okay, we've let it go. Breathe however long you need to breathe." And then I say, "When you're there, open your eyes and look at the screen, and the screen is crazy." If you don't have any way to know what it takes for you to internally regulate your system, you don't know. And if you have built in all kinds of coping mechanisms and you've convinced yourself I'm fine, you know, basic biofeedback is HeartMath is a great company for this
Yeah.
to show you feedback in real time to say, actually, you're not fine. Actually, internally, you're dying inside. So we need to do something different. That breathing practice, ineffective for you. It's not working. That doesn't work. So let's try something different. I don't know what you're breathing and what you're thinking, but those two combined is a nightmare. So, I probably right now is people listening thinking, wow, this girl really seems very high strung. And isn't she a stress reduction therapist? Absolutely. And let's understand that my primary job is first to be stress inducing. If I don't jar you into reality to say your life needs to matter more, you need to matter more to you. These numbers, what is happening, what is being portrayed here, what we can see here needs to matter more. And so I think that a lot of people get caught up with the kids, the relationship, the job obligation, the this, the that, the everything external that matters so much that we are not even in last place. We don't even have a place. And we just think, like I said, that we're going to be fine. And one day I'll be able to take a break, not today, but one day. Well, when you don't make it to that day, now let's talk about all the people you're letting down. Now you're not there anymore. Or you're a vegetable, or you're in a wheelchair or whatever it is that's going on. You've got a leg amputated because diabetes got away from you. Like the story just goes on that are all preventable, all of it. So at some point, eh, to me, why I have all of this, and I have a lot of wizardry here, is I think life is very short, it's very precious, and we don't have time to waste. You are put here on this earth to do something amazing. You have some incredible obligation that you are put here to do. And if you are not at your fullest, most alive self, you are only doing that to some percentage, or you're way off track and not even doing it at all. You bought into some story that you thought you were supposed to be or what you were supposed to be doing, and all of it is a mess. This device will tell me that too. I have a device that will tell me what your job should be, what you're meant to be doing with your life. I mean, it's all energy. It's just all energy, and all of that is readable. And so I have people that are, well, I've been an accountant my whole life. Well, that's really a shame because that's not why you're meant to be here. So then we can have the conversation of I gave up on the dream, right? I first was doing XYZ. I thought I'd like to be a baker, but my parents said that's not why I put you through college. And so then we can talk about, well, let's talk about the impact of that decision of living a lie and what that's doing to you, because again, you can see it all. And so all of this is knowledge, but at the end of the day, that's all it is information. You're the one that's got to say this either matters enough or it doesn't. I either make changes in my life or this is the path I'm headed down.
in as you explore new and new devices and the technology advances over time, what are you learning about yourself in the process?
that it is really great to be tough. It is really great to be strong. It is really great to know that any challenge that comes my way, I can conquer. And that is also my greatest Achilles heel. That is that sword. If I could go back in time, I wish I would have put that down decades ago. That I know that the reason that I attract those types of people is because it's so relatable to me, and it's still something that I am challenged with every day to this day, is, um, is I let things go too far, too long before checking in and saying, "Okay, now we're not at half a tank here, we're at a quarter tank, and now it just takes so much longer to refuel than had I just done what I tell people to do all the time." But, here's my story. It is 20 acres. Guess who's maintaining that, right? It is all the advertising. It is all of the promotion. Guess who's doing that? It is designing all the retreats and hosting the retreats. Who's doing that? And so, you know, uh, that has that takes its toll. That takes its toll. If I get asked a lot, would I do this all over again? Would I open a retreat center? And honestly, I would. I also get asked a lot of people that want to open a retreat center and say, "Oh my God, you're doing my dream job." And I say, "Great, spend a day with me. Let's see if you still hold that dream. Let alone a week. If you can hang out for a week, then by all means, go do it." And the number one thing is you had better have a team of people with you and more money than you'll ever think you're going to spend, because doing it on your own is not healthy, is just not healthy. Most learned is that the thing that I have always battled, I probably will take to my grave. I still do. Yeah, I still do. But it's why I have the things that I have, and I can, in short order, go out and sit in a cold plunge. I can take myself for a walk and say, "Okay, we need to go sit in the meditation area and have a chat and say, okay, come back, get back. Why are you making all of these external things more important than your own health? Because without that, nothing matters." So,
For these retreats, is it like you have every quarter you have a retreat, anyone can come? Is a retreat for particular people, like a particular group, an organization? Like, I know you said you had a nonprofit, but how do you actually organize the retreats?
yeah, so they're actually private. So I do specialized retreats, which that's all on the website, where you would see, "Oh, Michelle has a speaker coming in and it's 3 days on this topic." Maybe it's specific to meditation. I'm flying in my personal monk from India, which I actually do have. So
Wow.
maybe it's that, right? So that would be a group setting with a certain number of people. Lodging is not here. We just come here, and then lodging is very everywhere. And Julian is very close by, within a mile. There's 100 Airbnbs.
Oh,
So that would be one thing. But really, the work that you and I are talking about is private. So that's one on one, and you stay here on site. The very first thing that I built, again, you would think, wow, really seems odd for a stress reduction therapist. This would be where she would start it. But I built a 1920s themed champagne room. So that's the lodging. It's like a glitter type, glitter. I say it's, you really couldn't see the glitter, but it's an epoxy floor, velvet furniture, chandeliers. It really feels like a scene from The Great Gatsby. Why, you might ask? Because I think the thing that most people get away from is that life is meant to be celebrated. Is that your life is meant to be celebrated, and we get so busy with I'm going to celebrate when. Okay, well, ain't no guarantee. And if today isn't worth celebrating, we've missed the mark. You know what I mean? Where did we go wrong that we didn't celebrate whatever it is we showed up with today? Who did we contribute to? How did we make a difference? Did we make someone smile that maybe wouldn't have otherwise? Let's celebrate that. So that is the champagne room. Next to that, adjacent to that, is the Italy room that overlooks the small vineyard that I have. So that I also put in. So those two can be for two people. So if you're here as a best friend, if you're here as a couple, maximum is two people, and both people have to be all in. Like, one person's not here for a vacation. We're not. No, no, no. We're all in here. If we're here on the property, then we're participating fully into this. But they're private. It's 3 days, and everything that we talked about, that's all we do. So there's lots of things that go on to include the far infrared sauna and the cold plunge and the meditation areas and yoga nidra and all the things. And then you leave with your own heart math device. So there's things that you leave here with. So it's not just, oh, we're going to do this and you have nothing. And then every device that I have here, V-Light, which is photo biomodulation for the brain, it's the coolest thing. A pretty good discount on that. I rep that for as well as all the devices behind me. So everything that I have, I've leaned very hard on these companies to say, hey, for the tools that can be used at home, can we get a discount so people can have something that they're doing to help keep themselves in check? So I think that kind of circles back to your question of, what are people doing? There's lots of things that you can do at home that will keep this work going and keep things in check.
I
So
love that you work with couples and that you brought up heart math because actually I have my couples do heart math. So I think it's
yeah, it is so important. It really is so important. When I first started, they don't sell this device anymore. I think I have it sitting behind me. Do they sell? I don't think they sell it. It looks like an iPod, and it has a red light or a green light or a blue light, and then a little thing that goes up and down. Have you seen that thing? This is
yeah, actually,
25 years ago.
yeah, I think I have that one too.
Do you have that? So
Yeah.
I have it. It has a little ear clip. And so right when it's red, we're under stress. And so whenever two people would come to see me, I'd say, we're going to start when this is not red. And sometimes we would sit for an hour. And I'd say, so understand, you're wondering where dialogue is going wrong. We're wondering where the stress is coming from. If you cannot get yourself to a place of not being in the red zone, every time you speak to the what are we have no way, we have no chance that this conversation's going to go well. And at the end of the day, you got to be responsible for you. Right? We can blame the other person. Well, they caused this and they caused it. But if you yourself can't get yourself out of a red zone, we probably got to start there. We got to
Yeah.
we got to start here. We got to How in the world can we get ourselves back to blue or green, right? Back to either zero stress or a state of gratitude before we're ever speaking to another, let alone the person that we, supposedly care about and that matters to us. So yes, you and I share much in common.
That's very, very cool. What questions have I not asked you that you'd like to talk about, either about your work in general or specifically the retreats?
I would say the thing that matters the most of what takes people most out of kilter, whether it's panic attacks, stress, anxiety, inflammation, aches and pains, lack of sleep. I'm just going with a myriad of things that people would come here for. The number one, I would say, and I am blessed beyond measure for the people in your life that you have sent my way to be on my podcast. They all share this. For the most part, it's kind of a common thread through them all. And it is what I would say is the single biggest factor in why things go awry, and it's lack of identity. It's who who are you really, right? Why are you here? And not just who are you, but what do you think your worth is and why? What do you think you deserve in this lifetime and why? Good or bad, in any way, is all of the things that have happened over the course of our life that we have assigned meaning to. That meaning is then transposed into, and that's why I am who I am. And that's why my life is what it is. And that's also why I have this pain and this panic attack and this problem and this diagnosis and this disease. And all of that is a story, and it's one that is changeable. I don't have any part of me that has a belief that it is your lot in life to have this diagnosis. I don't. I think that diagnosis exists because of the life you're living and the beliefs that you have, but those are changeable. And if that's changeable, then so is your diagnosis, period. But I would say that if there was one thing that mattered the most, it's really knowing to the core of your soul who you are, not with a job title, not with what you're doing, but you, the truth of you. And that nothing that could ever happen, no matter divorce, loss of a job, diagnosis for that matter, that nothing can take away the essence of you, that you need to be really clear about what that is. That's one. The other one that I would say is I think it is the most missed factor, the most not paid attention to factor in overall health and well-being, and that's the impact of your environment. I think it is the biggest miss across the board. And your environment is everything that we already talked about, right? The job you have, the significant other, most important decision you could ever make in your life. That is a complete game changer in any direction. But the environment, the friends you keep, the job that you have, the clutterness of your home, right? Is it clean? Is it full of clutter? What is your entire environment like, and how does it make you feel? When you get in your car, how do you feel? When you walk in your job, how do you feel? When you are in your bedroom, how do you feel? When you're eating the food you're eating, how do you feel? All of this is your environment. And if 9 of 10 of those make you feel bad, we're in a bad way. We are behind the 8 ball here. So for people that think that they can outsmart their environment, or you know what, I'm fine. It's if you came to see me and now let's say you're a fish and we have all of you completely cleaned up and you're a perfectly healthy fish and we put you into a dirty aquarium, you're going to become sick immediately. No different than I can take a sick fish, put you in a clean aquarium, you will be healthy and whole in no time. You are your environment. And if people took that more seriously, certainly after coming to see me, you do. You're going to see that impact uh, without fail. But I would say that that would be the two things: is your identity, the truth of your identity, and your environment are the two most important things that I think don't get enough attention paid. The impact of both of those.
I love that. I noticed that you're a brother from another mother, but that doesn't work since you're a girl, but you're a sister from another mother. I literally just wrote about this a couple of days ago. So you and I are completely in alignment, the importance of the environment. And I love your more transpersonal perspective on things. Like, who are you at your core beyond the masks that you wear and the social constructs of things you learn how to do to survive in the world. And so I love that's
Yeah. No, like I said, you and I are just one and the same mind across the board. So I appreciate you immensely and the work that you're doing, and your environment is stellar. You have surrounded yourself with the most amazing people, and right, our the people we surround ourselves with are a reflection of us. And so it is a true reflection of you and your integrity and your character, because the people that you're around are the best of the best, and it really is. It's a reflection of who you are. So I appreciate that. I consider myself in the most amazing company just getting to be here with you today. So it's an honor for me,
Yep.
truly,
It's very sweet. I appreciate it
truly.
very much so. So where can people learn all about your work, your retreats, your podcast?
Every last thing is on my website. So the podcast, the retreats, I have an online course that is essentially everything that we are talking about is coming here for a 3-day experience, or you could do the online course. There's close to that as you could imagine. It's kind of walking a path with me as your guide through everything that I think is important in life to get your life on track and to keep it on track, keep on that right path. So I have that. I have a 90-day journal that is meant to rewire and reprogram your brain. That's on Amazon, also on my website. So I have another book coming out here in a couple of months. All of it's all under the same umbrella. All of that is under my name, MichelleDutro.com. So 2 L's in Michelle, and then Dutro, DUTRO.com is where everything sits. So you don't have to
You
go
got
to
to plug your soon to be released book and your podcast. What's the title?
and the podcast. So the podcast is the Game Changer podcast that you'll want to go back and listen to Michael's episode on. It's phenomenal. And all of my guests that are his friends, check those people out. And the book, the soon to be released book, is called The cloud conversation, the most important conversation you'll never remember. So, as I said, there is a line that says, things didn't happen to you, they're happening for you. I take that a step further. I don't think they're just happening for you. I think they were all designed by you to begin with, all of it. So, if you could imagine that cloud conversation back in the day, if you were to ever run across a challenge or a hurdle or a problem, and you could immediately in real time say, why would I have chosen this? Why would I choose to go through? And if someone's saying, oh, what, that bankruptcy or that diagnosis or being cheated on or what? Yeah, all of it. What what is in this that when you're on the other side of it, you will have learned, you will have grown in some way, some character that is built, some whatever that is absolutely a requirement for whatever that next thing is you needed to have in your backpack. And so back in the day, when you planned your life, you said, I ultimately, right, we begin with the end in mind. This is what I want to do with my life. This is who I'm here to help. This is who I'm here to serve. So, in order for me to be the very best at that, I had better go through this, and I had better have these siblings or not and these parents, or I better be adopted, or this, or that, or whatever it is. And when you look back at the thread of anybody's life, there has not been one person in 25 years that I have walked through and said, yeah, what part of your life are you surprised with? Hold on. This is such a logical when you get out of your own way, again, get out of your environment and step through and look at the weaving of your life, which is what we're doing here in the 3 days, you will leave here knowing exactly why you're here, exactly why all the things happen. And so then when they show up, it's kind of with a smile. Oh, I planned for that too. What an odd thing to have planned for myself to get fired today. All right, well, I guess that was for a reason. And it changes everything.
It does. It does.
So,
Yeah, what a deeply transpersonal existential message and approach. And it requires one to be, well, using Jocko Willnick's extreme ownership, talking about extreme ownership, like that's extreme ownership. If you take it as far as you have, that's awesome.
right.
Yeah.
Right. It's yeah. So it's the tale of a gal, Danielle, and we sit in on her cloud conversation and walk through some people's lives, some that are famous, that when you weave through a couple of famous people's lives, you go, huh, how interesting. Why else would that have played out that way? It makes you step back and think. And so yeah, I think there's no accidents. I think everything is by divine intervention and the line, on earth as it is in heaven. Well, right. All part of the design, all part of the plan. And so we can spend time playing the victim and complaining and being angry, but it's a lot easier and healthier and a lot quicker to turn things around, to shift a perspective and say, what is this all about? What is this really all about? What am I here for? What is my greatest, highest calling? And every single solitary person is here for a reason, and not a small one, a significant one. So,
The book coming out?
well, let's just put out there this year. How about that, Michael?
This year.
Thanks for the pressure. Yeah, this year. It'll be out this year. I'm going to guarantee you that as soon as I have a release date, you will know. Promise you that. Yes. And it is also very much, there's a couple of people that have been privy to the book and the course and have said, "Oh my goodness, they are such a companion to each other and a companion to all of your work." It's crazy. You'd think it was planned this way. So, but this book is years in the making. So I had to really sit with, when you talk about quiet time, I have seen a lot of clients with some very significant hardships where you would listen to a story and say, that should never happen to anyone. And very difficult things, and having to explain that, having to have reasoning for that is a very delicate thing to approach. So it has taken years, and every single aspect of this book every one of them is a real person. There's not a story in there that's make-believe. So anyway, this year it will be done. It will be out this year.
Greatly appreciate the sensitivity to that because I could imagine someone could be like self-blaming. Oh, it's all my fault. At the soul level, I chose to go through this process because I incarnated to have these experiences. But if someone gets caught, using my language, gets caught up at the egoic level of like blaming and beating self up, and like that's not a healthy way of integrating this model that you've created. And so I appreciate your sensitivity to like, how do you teach this in such a way that someone can kind of do the 30,000-foot view and look at their life as
When a
opposed to
child commits suicide, I have a couple of friends who have had their, kids commit suicide, and that had to be addressed. I can't know about this as somebody who works with these people. I mean, people right in the world of PTSD, there's, all kinds of things. And so if I believe this to the core of my soul, then you can't just attach that to the good things in life. Well, wasn't that great? You got fired and then this other thing, you started a company, became a billionaire. Yeah, that's amazing. But you have to look at all aspects, even the most challenging and difficult and hard things in life, and say, and I would never in a million years put this on a spin of, well, you chose this. But I will tell you, it's walked through in this book. It is walked through in this book to a degree that maybe there can be a different meaning assigned to a grieving parent who is having to live with what I would consider is the most difficult grief to ever have to endure, the loss of a child. So it's been a bit of work, but like I said, if you believe in something, then you have to believe in every aspect of it,
Mhm.
and you have to be able to walk through that. And I have sat with plenty of people in this space to have to assign meaning. Otherwise, that meaning will eat you alive.
Yeah.
If there is no meaning, if there is nothing to come of it, if there is nothing to take from this and contribute to another in a meaningful way, to do something with that, then what's the alternative, right? Then you're walking through life with not only no meaning, no purpose, no soul, nothing but grief and loss, and that's not the answer. That's not the answer. It's an answer, but I don't believe it's the highest calling of an answer for someone. And so my hope with this book is that wherever you're coming from, and there are several stories of various lives of whatever it is that I tried to go through all of the people that I've seen in 25 years and make sure that in some way, shape, or form, in about 7 different examples, I've hit all of them. Like you come up with a problem. I think I've covered that challenge in this book through someone's little story in some way, shape, or form. So you'll have to tell me if I did. In fact, let me tell you this, Michael. Before this goes to a publisher, I'm going to send you. I would love your feedback. I'm going to send you a copy of the book, and I would love your feedback. How about
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
so? There we are. Look at that. I just got great feedback here out of this little conversation. Oh,
That's
there
awesome.
we are. I will get that over to you.
I'll gladly accept. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
One more time for your website and any social media handles.
Ha!
Sure.
MichelleDutro.com, social media. So I got hacked last week on Facebook and Instagram. So normally I would say you can find me at Michelle Dutro anywhere, but I'm currently, Michael, on the dark web right now. If I told you that I right before this call was working for 2 days with somebody in Nigeria, Kenya, and a few other random countries to get my accounts back, I would not be lying to you. Yes, I am. So there's a solid chance by the time this airs that I get my accounts back, but one never knows. So I am currently on LinkedIn and TikTok and X as my name, Michelle Dutro, hopefully on Facebook and Instagram one day very soon. One never knows. You know what? Why did I choose for that? I don't know. Maybe I needed this friend in Nigeria to work with me on this. I don't know, Michael, but it's been a week. I can tell you that. It's been a week. Yeah. I can also say my last tip is if you get an email from Facebook that says click here, don't click there. Facebook is never going to email you. Don't do it. Yeah.
Good advice.
Caused that myself. Interesting choice to have made. Yep, but I made it. Yep, there we are.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for ending on such an up note for me, Michael. That's
Well, definitely enjoy our conversation. Definitely want
oh,
people
thank
to
you. Truly, thank you. It's such a pleasure.
check out your website, check out your podcast, check out your book that's coming out this year, your online course, and your retreats.
All there.
Awesome.
Yes, all there. I appreciate that. And if anybody has any questions, my email is there on my website. Please feel free to reach out to me about anything, and I'll let you know if I think we're a fit.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle.
All right. Thank you.